This is Good Morning Texas.
Good morning and thanks for waking up with us today. I'm Joey Horta.
And I'm Sharday LeRae. Well, let's get straight to the weather. It actually was a pretty good weekend.
I'm
I must
with
say
you.
so.
Yeah, it felt so nice to be outside, Josh.
Yeah, it really wasn't bad. That was nice to have that cooler air in place, even some lower humidity days. But now we're getting a little bit more humidity working on it. You can see out there right now, Clark Roof and Cam and Harker Heights, a little bit of a darker morning out there. The sun will be coming up. We'll see the sunshine come out, and it'll likely be a little clear, but we may have a couple of clouds here through the day today. Live Radar Network quiet. Don't anticipate anything for your morning commute. It'll be warm. It'll be muggy today. Mid-70s by noon, lower 80s later on this afternoon. And we may have to watch for a couple of thunderstorm chances tonight and then the next few nights going forward as we get that potential for thunderstorms working back in. I'll time it out for you and have a look at that full 10-day forecast, including Memorial Day weekend coming up.
We'll see you soon, Josh. Thank you. This week marks a year since the massacre at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, and we're expecting to hear from city leaders today. On May 24th, a gunman stormed into that school, killing 19 kids and 2 teachers. It took more than an hour for law enforcement to shoot and kill him. Heartbroken parents still demanding answers and calling for accountability a year later. Join us here Wednesday on 25 News for special coverage of the shooting and its ongoing impact. You can find our series of reports online at kxxv.com.
And from the Capitol this morning, the state Senate giving final approval to a school safety bill. Now, this bill would give the state more power to force districts to make active shooter plans, require mental health training for certain employees, and put restrictions on those who carry guns. Now, the bill now heads to the House, which will either accept the new version or hash out any differences before sending the bill to the governor's desk.
Texas is one step closer to banning diversity, equity, and inclusion offices at public colleges. This measure now has preliminary approval from the House to ban the programs and any diversity training from being required. The bill will find different roles for those DEI employees. If approved, this bill would take effect January 1st.
And the Senate approving to extend postpartum Medicaid. The Texas Tribune says new moms will be able to keep their health insurance for a full year under this proposal. That bill passed with a last-minute amendment to make sure pregnancies ended because of abortion aren't covered. It now heads back to the House. And several high-priority Senate bills dying in the Texas House after missing a very crucial deadline. The House was required to advance bills through committee by midnight Saturday, but several didn't make the cut. Now, the bills that died include a 10-year minimum sentence for gun-related crimes, penalties for libraries who host drag queen story times, and a law banning certain conversations about race at Texas universities. And looking around Texas this morning, the search for a gunman continues after a security guard in Dallas is shot and killed.
Investigators say the guard confronted a man Friday after he broke into several cars in a parking garage. Stacia Williamson has details.
That's very disturbing.
It's the second time this month that a DFW security guard lost their life while trying to protect the public. On May 6, 20-year-old Christian LaCour was one of 8 victims killed by an active shooter at the Allen Premium Outlets. Late Friday afternoon, 34-year-old Adalberto Santiago met a similar fate. Police say Santiago was trying to stop a man from breaking into cars and a parking garage in Preston Center West. Security footage shows a gold sedan pulling out of a parking space on the top level of the parking garage with a security guard hanging out of the driver's door. The sedan crashes. A few moments later, you can see Santiago running behind the car and collapsing. The car speeds off. Police later found it abandoned over 12 miles away and a closed business parking lot on the 2200 block of North Cockrell Hill Road.
It's terrible. I mean, the guy was trying to do the right thing, the security guy, and he ended up, losing his life trying to help protect us and keep us safe.
Carmen Coker moved to the area just a few weeks ago.
I'm a little more cautious than I used to be because you hear about it happening so much more frequently.
Jose Vega makes a trip to the shopping area about twice a month, and after learning what happened here one day before, he says his biggest concern is for his family.
I do have my daughter, and we do come here frequently, so just to just to know that it is a little bit scary.
An employee at a nearby business told WFAA they remember hearing 6 gunshots late Friday afternoon. She also said that Santiago had been patrolling the area for the past few months and described him as someone who seemed kind and dedicated to his job. Those who live nearby report seeing a rise in vehicle break-ins.
Stacia Wilson reporting. And more than 2 weeks since that deadly mass shooting in Allen, the outlet mall there is still closed. The management company says it won't be open until after the funerals for all the victims happen. Since the shooting, only business owners and employees have been allowed inside. Starting today, deliveries will be accepted.
And a gathering of Jeep enthusiasts going off-road resulting in hundreds of arrests. Police in Crystal Beach say they arrested more than 200 people over the weekend. Now, the Galveston County Sheriff's Office says most of those arrests were for drunk and disorderly conduct. Thankfully, no one was hurt. But organizers say the event started as a way for Jeep owners to get together and celebrate.
A driver in Southeast Texas does a double take after seeing a big old gator. Take a look. This scary thing here showed up in a Missouri neighborhood on Sunday. The driver called police. Officers show up to keep an eye on him until a trapper arrives. Look at that thing. The gator was pretty chill, though. He only moved about 3 feet the whole time, still giving those people quite a shock.
He was ginormous. He was huge, so I've never seen one that big up close.
The trapper says the alligator weighed 1,200 pounds. He's 11 feet long, about 85 years old, and they are shipping it to a gator rescue. Ginormous.
Very
He's
big.
right. Yeah.
Double take.
Well, 4 years later, he's still locked up in Russia. In our next half hour, we'll hear from former Texas Marine Paul Whelan, what he's saying now about being left behind.
But first, debt ceiling talks expected to continue today. We have reaction about the steps lawmakers are taking on Capitol Hill.
And a quiet Monday on the way, but you'll need your umbrella soon in the forecast. I'll let you know when you could be using it again coming up.
Hey, you're looking at Rodeo Colleen over the weekend, the calf scramble. And look at that guy with the cowboy hat. He looks familiar. That's Josh. What's going on here?
Well, I'm trying to chase after the calf and pull the ribbon off of its tail. You can see the pink ribbon there. And some of those calves there are pretty tough, Joey. Look, they got horns.
I wouldn't mess with them.
That's exactly what I tried not to do there. And that's why you see I'm keeping a little bit more distance than some of the other folks. I didn't want that to turn on me. But I almost had a chance to get the last calf right here once they roped him. And, well, we'll see what happens.
Oh, he's not messing around.
Nope. And
Oop,
there you go.
Oh, and he's down.
I was just about to say, Josh, you didn't fall like everyone else, but there you go.
Oh,
I love
yeah.
this play-by-play, by the way.
Oh, man. Better luck next time. Isn't it the second year you did that?
This is the second year I did that, and the second year I fell too.
Yeah.
Last year I had a ribbon though. This year it couldn't grab that one before he went back in the chute. But you know what? It was all for a fun cause, fun time. Thanks to the folks at Rodeo Colleen for having me out, and the other members of the media that were out there as well.
Good times.
Awesome. Okay, so did the weather impact this at all?
You know what? It started raining on us after the calf scramble. Didn't rain on the calf scramble, and then when we were driving back in the storm wrangler, we had to stop and wrangle some storms
that's
out there
right.
in the calves
Yeah.
because we had those winds coming through here. So we did have some weather there Friday night, and then it's been quiet through the weekend, and we're starting off on that same quiet note out there right now. 59 degrees as you look at the Clark Roofing Cam in South Waco, 59 in Waco, 57 in Gatesville. There are a few spots a little cooler, and we do have a little bit of patchy fog in spots, so monitor that as you are out there driving. 65 at 8 o'clock will be in the mid-70s by noon, and late this afternoon, those mid-80s are going to take on over, and that's not too far from where it should be this time of year. Should be at 87. Now, we are watching some showers up across the Panhandle. This is where we'll be focusing this afternoon because we're in what's called a northwest flow aloft, which means any thunderstorms that develop up there, and Future Track does have a few of them, try to move into our area later on as we get into the overnight hours. So we'll have one round trying to come through tonight that will likely fall apart as it approaches us, but some of our western counties could see some rumbles of thunder, maybe a little bit of rain from that. We'll do it again tomorrow. We're quiet until we get into the overnight hours. Could have some showers roll through, some rumbles of thunder as well. Once again, these storms will be dying as they roll in. And then we get into Wednesday, and Wednesday, some of that leftover energy could be enough to trigger some showers. We'll continue this pattern at least through Thursday. And then by the weekend, I think this pattern lets up. We get a little bit of upper level ridging coming in, and that means that we will stay quiet. We'll warm up a bit, and it looks like it'll be quiet for Memorial Day weekend. Stuff can still change, but right now it looks quiet. 84 today, 86 for Tuesday. Look at those temperatures hanging around the mid-80s for much of the week. There's a sign we get a couple more rain chances trying to work in here early next week as well. But don't put the umbrella away just yet.
All right, noted. Thank you, Josh. Well, this morning, negotiations over the debt ceiling are becoming a priority on Capitol Hill. President Biden landed back in Washington. There he is overnight after cutting his trip to Asia short. Debt ceiling negotiations stretched into the 11th hour. Biden spoke to House Speaker Kevin McCarthy by phone yesterday. But bottom line is there's still no deal. They will meet this afternoon with other lawmakers. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says June 1st is the deadline for a default if there's no deal.
It's time for Republicans to accept that there's no bipartisan deal to be made solely on their partisan terms. They have to move as well.
I've been very clear to them from the very beginning. We have to spend less money than we spent last year.
And Speaker Kevin McCarthy going on to say a deal was needed by the weekend to get a bill through Congress just in time. He thinks it's still possible to get legislation passed before a default.
The NAACP, I should say, warning certain groups now to avoid traveling to Florida. The organization issuing a travel advisory. They say Florida is openly hostile to people of color and the LGBTQ+ community. Governor Ron DeSantis restricting Black history and diversity programs in Florida schools, and his office calls the move a stunt.
Most Americans say they're paying too much in federal taxes. Now that's according to a new poll. This is 60% of people believe they're paying too much, and just 36% say they're paying the right amount. The last time Americans were so critical of federal taxes was back in 2001.
New developments this week on America's push to support Ukraine in the war against Russia.
In just about 4 minutes, what the White House is sending overseas this time and how Moscow is reacting. It's 6:15 and you're watching Good Morning Texas.
Back at 6:18, these are the top stories we're following.
A battle happening right now in a key Ukrainian city. Russia claims it's taken over Bakhmut. If true, it would mark the end of the longest and bloodiest battle of the war so far. However, Ukraine says its forces still control a small portion of the city. They hope to surround Russian troops inside of it.
The federal government and our allies are planning to send F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine. The president making the announcement over the weekend at the G7 summit. This is a major step in beefing up Ukraine's air defense. Moscow says the move raises questions about NATO's role in the war. All right, let's get back to the weather here and check in. Is our calf scrambler okay? I don't know.
I know.
My legs are
Bruise,
sore.
maybe?
Legs are sore from running.
Well, can you handle this?
Yeah, I think I can. I think I've done it enough that I can handle doing it even with a sore leg. So let's talk about what's going on weather-wise here in Central Texas. You can see the cloud cover out there right now. A little bit of clear skies back to the east. Now, things are quiet here in Harker Heights on the Clark Roofing Cam. The radar is quiet as well. I don't anticipate any sort of rain today. Maybe in the late evening into the overnight hours, but the rest of the day looks quiet. 65 by 8 o'clock, 75 by noon. We're heading to the mid-80s this afternoon. So it's going to be warm. It's going to be muggy this afternoon once again. And we'll continue with these temperatures that are quite typical for this time of year. Our normal is 87. We'll be calling for mid-80s on the way. Now, I do have more storm chances on the way. We may have to watch for some overnight storms this week, and I'll walk you through what that looks like and have a look at that full 10-day forecast coming up.
All right, thank you, Josh. Well, Vin Diesel, not Josh, John, giving fans a reason to rev up their engines over the weekend.
In 2 minutes, how fans are responding to the latest Fast and Furious movie racing into theaters. .24, here's what's trending this morning. Fast 10 races to the top of the weekend box office. This movie bringing in more than $67 million, less than the last two installments here, but the movie brought in $320 million worldwide. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 fell to second place, and the Super Mario Brothers movie fell to third.
If you heard me say Fast 10, that's because, gee, Wizards, this franchise just keeps going and going.
So many, when will it stop? Maybe never.
Probably not. But anywho, this won't stop either. We won't stop giving away free Good Morning Texas coffee mugs.
Sure won't. And today's winner is Stephanie Caldwell. Congrats, Stephanie. We'll let you know how you can pick up one of these Good Morning Texas mugs.
If you want one to, just go to our website. We've got an endless supply. Don't worry. At kxxv.com/contest. Click the mug, give us your email address, and we'll have another winner coming up here tomorrow morning. I just can't get over how beautiful the weather has been the last couple days.
Yes, listen, you know I was excited about it. Yeah. But will it continue? That's the question.
You know, it will continue for the most part. The afternoons will still be nice. We may have to watch for thunder in the evenings, but nothing that's going to be too crazy widespread. We just have the potential of seeing some thunderstorms overnight over the next few days. 59 degrees out there right now. No thunderstorms. In fact, I thought there were clouds out there, but it looks like it's clear now that we're getting more sunlight. 59 degrees in Waco, 62 in Temple, 60 in Killeen, Goldthwaite, San Saba. You're at 57, a little cooler there. We'll get into the mid-70s by noon, mid-80s later on this afternoon. A very spring-like day is on the way. We'll be quiet here, but what we're watching is thunderstorms that may develop over towards the Panhandle. As those develop, they'd like to ride our little conveyor belt, our little jet stream, and we're in a northwesterly flow in the jet stream, so that pulls those storms down. They'll be dying as they arrive, but still, we get around tonight, we get around tomorrow, potentially around on Wednesday. Just got to watch for showers and thunderstorms in the overnight. Sometimes that can lead to some thunderstorms in the day. I think that best chance is going to be on Wednesday. And then we're quiet for the weekend. Looks like we could bring in some more rain chances from Memorial Day on. So don't put away the umbrella just yet, guys.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Josh. Much more to come.
It's now 6:26, and we'll be right back.
Connecting Central Texas. This is Good Morning Texas.
Hey there, good morning. I'm Joey Horta.
And I'm Sade LeRae. Man, it really does feel like a Monday. This is my second cup of coffee.
Keep them coming.
How many have you had?
I've just had the one, and it feels like one, too.
Okay, well, Josh, how many have you had this morning?
Just one, and like Joey, it only feels like one. It's those Mondays, man. That's what gets you.
Monday blues, but how's the weather going to pick it up, hopefully?
You know, the sunshine will help kind of get us in the mood today, right? We have a little bit of fog out there as you look at the Clark Roofing cam in Killeen. This is very patchy in nature, but you may come and run into some as you get up this morning. 59 in Waco, 57 Gatesville, 62 right now in Temple. Now, as you're heading to the bus stop, the bus picking up your kiddos with temperatures in the 60s by the afternoon, though. We're in the mid-80s. South winds at around 10 miles per hour later on today. So short sleeves, shorts, that'll be the move today, although you may need a light jacket this morning. You won't need it in the afternoon with temperatures back in the mid-80s. You'll need the umbrella here over the next few days at times. We'll let you know when some of those times are and have a look at that full 10-day forecast coming up.
All right, Josh, thank you. Several people from Texas now have been at the center of high-profile prisoner swaps with Russia over the past few months. First, Trevor Reed, the Marine held captive for nearly 1,000 days. Then Brittany Griner, the Baylor basketball star, freed 10 months after being sentenced on drug charges. But Paul Whelan is still locked up at Russia 6 years later.
And Whelan now speaking out about his hopes for freedom that is. And Derek Dennis has the latest.
This morning, Paul Whelan, the former U.S. Marine imprisoned in Russia for more than 4 years, is sounding optimistic about someday coming home.
There will be an end to this, and that end, I hope, is coming sooner than later. But it is depressing on a daily basis, going through this.
Whelan, speaking to a CNN reporter yesterday, said he's disappointed he was not among the other Americans recently released in U.S. brokered prisoner swaps with Russia. WNBA star Brittany Griner in December and former Marine Trevor Reed in April. Whelan's sister Elizabeth expressing that same sentiment on Good Morning America last month.
Paul has been left behind twice. That's just a fact. And it's really important that we stress that that cannot happen again. Paul Whelan must be a part of any deal that happens in the future.
Still, Whelan remains hopeful, appearing satisfied that the Biden administration and others continue working on his behalf.
I think there are people in D.C. that feel the same way, and they're moving towards a compromise and resolution to this as quickly as they can.
President Biden spoke of Whelan at this month's White House Correspondents' Dinner after mentioning Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich, who was captured by Russia in March on espionage charges. Biden promising Whelan and every American detainee around the world will not be forgotten.
Neither will I, and neither will this administration until we get him home.
Whelan also says he has the usual aches and pains from the forced labor camp where he's detained, saying it's a daily reminder of his captivity and his fight to come home. Derek Dennis, ABC News, New York.
This week marks a year since the massacre at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, and we're expecting to hear from city leaders today. On May 24th, a gunman stormed into that school, killing 19 kids and 2 teachers. It took more than an hour for law enforcement to shoot and kill him. Heartbroken parents still demanding answers and calling for accountability a whole year later. Join us here Wednesday on 25 News, special coverage of the shooting and its ongoing impact. You can find our series of reporting online at KXXV.com.
And from the Capitol this morning, the state Senate giving final approval to a school safety bill. Now, this bill would give the state more power to force districts to make active shooter plans, require mental health training for certain employees, and put restrictions on those who carry guns. The bill now heads to the House, which will either accept the new version or hash out any differences before sending the bill to the governor's desk.
Texas is a step closer to banning diversity, equity, and inclusion offices at public colleges. This measure now has preliminary approval from the House to ban the programs and any diversity training from being required. The bill will find different roles for those DEI employees. If approved, the bill would take effect January 1st.
The Senate approving to extend postpartum Medicaid. The Texas Tribune reporting new moms will be able to keep their health insurance for a full year under the proposal. The bill was passed with a last-minute amendment to make sure pregnancies ended because abortions aren't covered. It now heads back to the House. And several high-priority Senate bills dying in the Texas House after they missed a very crucial deadline. The House was required to advance bills through committee by midnight Saturday, but several didn't make the cut. Those bills that died include a 10-year minimum sentence for gun-related crimes, penalties for libraries who host drag queen story times, and a law banning certain conversations about race at Texas universities.
Elsewhere around Texas today, more than 2 weeks since that deadly mass shooting in Allen, the outlet mall is still closed. The management company says they won't be open until after the funerals for all of the victims take place. Since the shooting, only business owners and employees have been allowed inside. Starting today, deliveries will be accepted.
And a gathering of Jeep enthusiasts going off-road resulting in hundreds of arrests. Police in Crystal Beach say they arrested more than 200 people over the weekend. The Galveston County Sheriff's Office says most of the arrests were for drunk and disorderly conduct. No one was hurt, thankfully, but organizers say the event started as a way for Jeep owners to get together and celebrate.
Wait till you see this. A driver in Southeast Texas does a double take after seeing a big old gator. Take a look at this thing. Pretty scary. Showed up in a Missouri City neighborhood Sunday. The driver called police for help. Officers show up to keep an eye on him until a trapper arrives. The gator was pretty chill, though. He only moved about 3 feet the whole time, giving people quite a shock.
He was ginormous. He was huge, so I've never seen one that big up close.
Oof, the trapper says the alligator weighed 1,200 pounds, 11 feet long, and they think he's about 85 years old. They're shipping it to a gator rescue. Rescue those people, man.
Are those in gator years?
I don't know how that works, but that seems like a long time.
I know.
To be crawling around out there. Well, the race to the White House is picking up speed now with several prospects on the growing list. In about 5 minutes, we'll take a look at the standouts and who's the latest to join them.
But first, one of Target's most popular items is being recalled over a safety concern. We take a look what experts say you should do and how you can get your money back.
Okay, this is pretty good. It makes Monday all better. Josh right there, running. What are you running for?
I'm running for the calves down there. You got to rip a ribbon off of the tail and run back with it.
Listen, just in case folks missed it, give us a little bit of a play-by-play here.
So you're trying to run and grab the ribbon off the calf, run back, and there's 3 ribbons on the calves, so there's a few calves there. Joey, those look like steers with the horns.
Yeah, I don't want to mess with those horns.
Exactly. That's why I'm kind of keeping my distance there at first. I've also played it back a little bit, waiting for it to turn, because if you run towards it, it takes off, and then you're just hosed because you're back there. So I tried to get it right here. This was the final ribbon, and
boom.
Nope.
Just
the
when you
hat off.
thought he had
Get
it.
that hat. Yeah.
Listen. Really?
Sore?
Yeah, are you sore?
Yeah, I'm sore. And then after that, I moved into a new place, so I've just been doing tons of leg work here this weekend.
Oh, so this Monday is probably tough for you.
It's a little sore.
Yes.
I won't lie.
So we'll go easy on you. Good
Appreciate
job for trying.
Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Proud
A
of you.
for effort. I love that. All right. Well, would you rather, really quick, we talked about gators. Would you rather wrangle a gator or?
Or the calf? Oh, I'm going the calf all the way. Even if it has horns, I'm going the calf.
It's only got 2 horns. That alligator got a lot more teeth.
Gator's got a lot more
Yeah.
muscle too, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So I wouldn't want to mess with that. Thankfully, none of them are in the studio right now. So
Yes.
don't have to chase any of those
checking.
today.
Nope.
Yeah. If there's a gator back there, we need to know. Yeah, let's talk about what's going on weather-wise here because it's going to be a nice day. That's the good part about this Monday. Look at the sunshine this building out there. 59 now in South Waco, 62 in Simple, 60 degrees in Killeen. We're going to get into the mid-70s by lunchtime, and we'll be in the mid-80s this afternoon. So very typical of what we see in May and really what we've seen the last few days, except we'll have more sunshine around. Record, by the way, 99 in 2005. You know that summertime heat's knocking on the door. It won't take long for it to get here, but it's not there right now. That's the good news. Live Radar Network, quiet this morning. We are watching some showers up across the Panhandle, and that's where we'll be monitoring this afternoon. Our atmosphere is in what's called a northwest flow aloft. That means what steers the storm is out of the northwest. So anything that forms up here will drag down into our area. As it arrives, though, overnight, it tends to lose its energy. So these arrive in a weakening state. You'll see big thunderstorms out towards Lubbock, towards Abilene, but as they arrive here, they'll be weaker. Now, what can happen is you can get a little energy coming off of that can lead to a couple of showers in the day the next day. So not only are we watching the overnight hours, but also the middle of the day to see if thunderstorms can start to form. Here comes another round there Wednesday, and look, we do it again Thursday. So there could be off and on little rain chances building in, just nothing that's widespread, nothing that's crazy heavy. May just see little rounds of thunderstorms in the evenings, or the overnight hours rather, here over the next few days. After that, though, the pattern breaks. We start to get into the mid-80s for the weekend. May bring storm chances back early next week from Memorial Day on. Right now, things looking pretty unsettled, but don't put the umbrella away just yet.
All right, Josh, thank you. Former President Donald Trump, the GOP frontrunner, but another candidate is throwing his hat into the ring.
And he's already getting some key endorsements along with millions in campaign cash. Rhiannon Alley has the latest.
South Carolina Senator Tim Scott is expected to officially kick off his campaign for president today. He's already picked up an endorsement from John Thune, the #2 Republican in the Senate. It comes as polls show former President Trump remains the leading contender for the Republican nomination. But Senator Bill Cassidy predicts Trump cannot win a general election, citing performances by Trump-endorsed candidates in the midterm elections last year.
Georgia, Pennsylvania, Nevada, and Arizona. That the candidates for Senate that Trump endorsed all lost. If past his prologue, that means President Trump is going to have a hard time in those swing states, which means that he cannot win a general election.
Cassidy, who voted to convict Trump after impeachment, pointed to, quote, formidable opponents, naming Tim Scott as one of them.
The chance of us backing down from that is 0.
Meanwhile, sources say Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is expected to announce his campaign for president Wednesday, likely in a video on social media. The NAACP over the weekend issued a formal travel advisory for Florida, accusing the state, under DeSantis' leadership, of being hate-inspired toward African Americans, people of color, and LGBTQ+ individuals. DeSantis recently signed laws to block funding for college diversity programs and limit classroom discussion about sexual orientation and gender identity. He previously called the proposed travel advisory a joke.
But I'm not wasting my time on your stunts, okay?
Rhiannon Alley, ABC News, New York.
Right now, a history-making SpaceX launch is making its way to the International Space Station.
That's right. Find out who's aboard that rocket when Good Morning Texas returns. Well, here's some out-of-this-world news this morning. A private SpaceX flight is expected to reach the International Space Station sometime this morning. Now, the rocket is carrying 2 astronauts from Saudi Arabia, including the country's first female astronaut. An American from Tennessee and a retired NASA astronaut are also on board. They'll spend about a week in space before splashing down off the Florida coast. It's the second private flight chartered by SpaceX over the past year, and this mission is part of the company's effort to expand space tourism. And a recall alert for you this morning. Target is recalling nearly 5 million candles after some people suffered severe burns. Now, this recall includes Threshold branded glass jar candles in multiple sizes and scents. The Consumer Product Safety Commission says the candles jars break and crack while in use. Now, if you have the candles at your house, you're urged to stop using them. You can return them to Target for your full refund. And summer is approaching, which unfortunately means travelers should expect those longer lines at the airport.
There are some options, though, claiming to help you save time, but are they worth it? Consumer reporter John Batteries takes a look so you don't waste your money.
It's going to be a busy summer travel season, which should make for some long lines, especially at airport security. So is it worth paying extra for speedier options?
Ryan Beckham is a frequent traveler who says she couldn't live without TSA PreCheck nowadays.
I actually have Clear on top of it, which is even more helpful.
Summer Hall is director of travel content for The Points Guy. She says TSA PreCheck is worth it even if you travel just once a year. Clear, on the other hand,
if you're not traveling, I would say at least 4 times a year using it, it's definitely not worth it.
Let's break down the difference. TSA PreCheck is $78 for a 5-year membership. These travelers don't remove their shoes and belts and don't have to remove laptops or liquids from their bags. An annual Clear membership, meantime, is $189. Using Clear, you verify who you are using your eyes or a fingerprint. Once verified, you're escorted to the front of the line for security screenings. Summer points out that frequent travelers may want to enroll in both. And with either option, there's always the risk of lines being just as long as the standard security lane.
If the day you happen to be flying, you see the shortest line is the one that's just open to everyone, that can and does happen, so take that line in that case.
For perks without an expensive membership, Summer says many credit cards cover TSA PreCheck or Clear application fees, so check with your credit card provider. Also, a number of airports are rolling out free reservation systems at the security checkpoint.
For example, at the Orlando International Airport, which is notorious for long lines.
Sure, it costs money, but if you hate waiting in long lines,
I definitely think it's worth it.
That way you don't waste your money. I'm John Matarese.
Coming up in 2 minutes, the president stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, because time is running out to come up with a deal to avoid hitting that debt limit.
And we're tracking what could be a more busy week weather-wise here in Central Texas. I'll have your forecasts coming up.
Okay, my truck has the umbrella in it now. I wonder how much longer it should be staying back there.
Yeah, funny thing is I moved my umbrella, you should be very proud, to my front seat.
Good for you.
Passenger seat.
Yeah.
There you go.
When
do we get to use it?
And everything. Yeah, as far as using it, it's not going to be today, but maybe during the overnight hours and maybe into some of the afternoons here coming up. You can see out there right now, all we're tracking is a little bit of fog on the Clark Roofing Cam and Killeen. We have temperatures that are in the 60s and the 50s, so a little cool out there this morning. You may need a light jacket, but by afternoon, you won't be needing it at all. Mid-70s by noon, lower 80s this afternoon, likely getting close to 84, 85 degrees late this afternoon. That humidity will be around as well. Now, we will have the chance for thunderstorms in the overnight hours and through, well, the middle of the week. I'll walk you through it in that 10-day coming up.
Josh, today the country a little more than a week away from hitting the debt ceiling. It would affect everything from Social Security checks to the overall economy. President Biden meets with House Speaker Kevin McCarthy today to make a deal.
And one part of a possible compromise includes reforms for permitting. Joe St. George looks at how it could impact you.
Every now and then, political reporters will pop on your television and talk about something that's, quite frankly, really boring. Something like permitting reform. Well, this is one of those times. Now, before you change the channel, you need to understand why permitting reform really matters. You see, if the country's going to avert a debt ceiling crisis in the coming weeks, it could come down to permitting reform.
It takes much longer to build something here in America
than it does in Europe.
To understand why this matters, we sat down with Neil Bradley. He's the Chief Policy Officer at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce.
This issue is about as boring as watching paint dry. Why does it matter?
Because it matters if you want to build anything in America. On average, it takes about 7.5 years to get a federal permit.
Bradley says the push to build more in the U.S., whether it's a bridge, a highway, a wind turbine, a pipeline, or even broadband internet, has for years taken too long. He points to a planned renovation of Union Station in Washington, D.C. as Exhibit A.
They started the permitting process on that in 2015, and they think they're another 3 years away from even getting final approval.
Why does it take so long? Well, let's say you want to build a project. A federal permit may require you to go to the EPA for an environmental review. You may have to go to the Department of Transportation if it involves travel or commuting. If your land is protected, you might have to go to the Department of Interior or the Department of Agriculture if it involves farming. All usually have different timelines and actual employees capable of signing off.
Then someone can sue to say, I don't think the federal agencies looked at all the right things.
Permitting reform is one area of potential agreement between President Biden and congressional Republicans that could make its way into a deal to avert a default. Some Democrats wanted to build renewable energy projects faster. Many conservatives want traditional oil and gas-related projects sped up.
The purpose of these laws is to ensure we look before we leap.
But Lisa Frank with Environment America says changes to permitting shouldn't negatively impact the environment. She worries change could lead to more fossil fuel projects and irreversible mistakes impacting wildlife and habitats.
Typically, once we've built a project, those impacts are kind of locked in.
All of this, something to watch as lawmakers try and strike a debt limit deal. Joe St. George, Scripps News, Washington.
6:54 is your time. These are the top stories we're following.
Starting with a battle happening right now in a key Ukrainian city. Russia claims it's taken over Bakhmut. If true, it would mark the end of the longest and bloodiest battle of the war so far. However, Ukraine says its forces still control a small portion of the city. They hope to surround Russian troops inside of it. And this week marks 1 year since the massacre at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde. We're expecting to hear from city leaders today. On May 24th, a gunman stormed into the school, killing 19 kids and 2 teachers. It took more than an hour for law enforcement to shoot and kill him.
At the state capitol, several high-priority Senate bills are dead in the water after missing a crucial deadline. The House required to advance bills through committee by midnight Saturday, but several measures just didn't make the cut. They included 10-year minimum sentence for gun-related crimes and penalties for libraries hosting drag queen story times. All right, almost 7 o'clock, and we've got the whole week planned out weather-wise.
Yes, Josh. What do you lay it on us?
Well, today's going to be nice. That's the good news, guys. We're quiet for today as we plan your Monday. We've got mid-60s by 8 o'clock, upper 70s by 2, and we'll likely end up in the mid-80s this afternoon. So another humid day. We'll have the south winds around. We'll have the sunshine around as well. We'll watch for thunderstorms developing off to the northwest. Remember what's called a northwest flow aloft. That means anything that could develop over in the panhandle dives southeast towards us. And as we get into the overnight hours, some of those arrive as some thunderstorms. And even if not, they can bring enough energy to create little afternoon showers. So while we're quiet today, we'll watch thunderstorms blow up to our northwest. Some of those may make it into our western counties overnight in a weakening state. So don't expect too much from that. Notice the little splotches on the radar, the green splotches tomorrow afternoon. That's some of that energy staying around that could create some showers. And then we watch for another round that could come in as we get into the overnight hours tomorrow. And guess what? We do this all again on Wednesday and Thursday as well. So we keep this pattern going until we get into the weekend. Then things should break down a little bit. Although future track showing a little bit of rain there, I do think the weekend at this point will be quiet. So we keep a little small rain chances in here with the best day being Wednesday, 84 that day, 85 coming up for the weekend. And then next week could be talking about isolated showers and thunderstorms again. But at least we got a nice afternoon on the way.
Good thing the umbrella's in the front seat.
There you go.
Hey,
great timing.
Thanks for waking up with us today. GMA's next.
And we'll see you right back here on 25 News Midday. Have a wonderful Monday.